Yeah.
We'll crack on, right? So today I'm very excited to speak with Donal of Online Optimizers. So I originally met Donal, I think it was at a conference, either in Lisbon or
Sophia,
Bulgaria or Sofia. Yeah, I think it's Sofia. I would say a good 6, 7 years ago,
way
uh,
back when, yeah.
way back in the day. So fast forward a few years, I met Donal again in Thailand. He had set up an agency. And then since then, it's been very exciting and inspirational to see how he's been able to scale that business over the last 6 months. So maybe just to introduce yourself, Donal, maybe tell people a bit about yourself and your business.
Cool. Hi, I'm Donal. Yeah, I have a partner, my brother Tomas. We run online optimizers, specialize in local SEO, mainly clients in the USA, kind of niching down into movers right now. Um, and I would say, yeah, last year was a lot of pain, barely scraping by, barely getting anything going. And I'd say the first 6 months of this year, 2024, okay, got a little bit of traction. But we kind of knew there was still a lot of holes in our game in terms of sales, marketing, client management, everything. So I think this year has been actually massive for us in terms of like actually belief in ourselves, belief in the service, skill set, and just kind of leveling up in all those kind of areas.
Nice. And maybe can you maybe dig into a bit more detail of, I guess, before you started working with us on RevPact, like what was the current state of the business and the sales process? Like where were you at that time?
Yeah, I think right before we contacted you, there was definitely a lot of fear going on in the company. We weren't even sure if we would keep going. We found it very difficult to close any clients. And the clients we did close, it just felt like everything was by accident and kind of sheer luck. And I think right before we contacted you, we just had that epiphany of we had like 6 or 7 really good opportunities to close a client that would
Yeah.
have been, 1,500 per month. And I was like, whoa, that's thousands we're missing out on right here, right now, just because we didn't have the skill of sales. At this point, we trusted our service and our management, but it was just kind of getting clients over the line. And we had all these stigmas about sales of like it being icky, snake, oil salesman-y, and we just didn't know how to take someone along the process and build some trust and connection. So yeah, I mean, before talking to you, we were leaving thousands every month on, behind and weren't even sure how we would close our next client. I think revenue had gone down to 2.5K. So it was very worrying, not enough for me and my brother to survive on. Yeah, so yeah, we were in a lot of trouble at that stage.
So, well, that's, I mean, the positive there is you actually had that epiphany that something is wrong and you need to do something about it. Because from my experience, a lot of the time before we start working with a company, they're not fully aware of the full extent of their problems. It might be a surface level problem, like they're not getting enough leads, they're not booking enough meetings, but actually when you dig into underneath the surface, there's a lot more going on that's causing that symptomatic problem. I guess for you, like when you had that epiphany and you understood, okay, you're leaving thousands on the table, like throughout that, what would you say was the biggest frustration um, or fear that you had about the business at the time that kind of maybe prompted you to take an action to work with us?
Um, the biggest fear was I just didn't know if we would be making any money in 3 months. Like we couldn't
Yeah.
plan ahead, we couldn't leave the country. Uh, we had to be super frugal with expenses. We were kind of arguing with one another. It was just causing so much stress in our relationship and in the business. So yeah, fear of the unknown, and like, oh man, what I do I have to go back at a job or something was actually going through my head. And yeah, so the epiphany was like we knew we were actually pretty good at getting leads. Um, I think yeah, the main epiphany was like the amount of leads we're getting, and we should be converting more of these.
How long do you think you were having those problems for before you decided to do something about it? So you said you had an epiphany. that you had 6 or 7 good deals in your pipeline. They were probably going to be worth thousands of dollars. Uh, I'm assuming that you were generating leads beforehand and those issues were prevailing. So, like, talk to me in terms of timeline.
Yeah, I would say it was mainly over the summer. I'm not sure what we were at before the summer, maybe about 5-ish K, which was, decent for us, a new business and stuff. It wasn't until nearing the end of the summer when another contract was about to finish.
Yeah.
And then that's when I kind of look back at the last 6 months and being like, oh, there was like a red hot lead every month that we should have closed. Like off the top of my head, there was like three guys who were like, I'll pay you next week, or oh, I'm just waiting for this to happen to pay you. In my mind, it was like, oh, that's 99% over the line. And then all of a sudden ghosted. I'm like, damn, like all these kind of, I was way more sure that we would have had way more clients.
Yeah.
And when they started falling through my fingers, I was like, okay, we really need to do something. But I think it was August was the big one. And then we talked to two other big sales guys at that time. And one of them wanted us to pump a bunch of money into ads. So we were pretty skeptical there. And then um, the other guy I just didn't trust. I just didn't get that feeling that he cared. He was just very, very pushy, pushy, pushy. Wouldn't let me get off the phone. I had to like slam the laptop off, and I was like, "Oh my God, what was that?" Like, it was an experience to see. I mean, obviously he had like a lot of skills and tricks in sales, um, but I think he kind of missed the point of actually connecting with me. And then I guess we had a that webinar call, and then the call after, and I think you just kind of understood where we were at. And then, yeah, it kind of brought us to that decision.
Gotcha. And so, what would you say made you decide to work with us instead of some of the other solutions you mentioned? Because I know around that time when we first started working with each other, you had mentioned there was like maybe like a big name in the sales space that I think a lot of people would know if they go on YouTube
Yeah.
and look to maybe improve on sales. So maybe what was the specific reason you went with us instead of maybe going for some of those other big names on YouTube?
Hmm. I felt like that guy was just on a playbook. Like he was running through a playbook. I just felt like it was another number. Um, Even like his tonality and everything, it just felt like, oh, you're acting or something. I didn't really trust it. Like, and then with Alan of RevPact yourself, um, I felt like you actually cared. I felt like you really actually wanted to help us. Like, if I use like a boxing analogy, if I was like Rocky in the ring, I just felt like you were on my back going, we got this round three, like let's get back in there. I was actually just like pumped after it. I was like, oh yeah, I really believe we can do this. You had really genuinely looked at our business, seen the amount of leads we have, taken a look at some of the calls we've done, our sales process. And just by looking at it, you went, "Oh, there's so many gaps here that I specifically know how to fill, and you can definitely help me." And the way you broke it down and like clear explanation, and also a little bit of hype, but like a believable hype, like you were in my corner. I actually like got full of belief that like, you know what, damn, we can hit 10K in a few months, and then we did.
Yeah, because I know it was interesting at the time because obviously your brother's in the business as well, and then you thought he'd be quite skeptical. So it was really, I think first you had to believe in yourself, and then you had to transfer that belief into your brother, which you did, which kind of showed initially that like the wind was behind your sales. I guess when you were considering us in that process, what would you say were maybe the specific aspects of our approach or our offer that stood out to you? I know you mentioned, um, I guess from our early conversations, you said, it genuinely seemed like you cared, which I do. I don't work with anyone I don't want to help. And if I do bring someone on board, like my goal always is to fast forward 6 months to have this conversation like the one we're having now. And I said that to you 6 months ago. So I guess, yeah, just to reiterate, like for you, were there any specific aspects of our approach or offer that stood out to you?
Yeah, I really like the hand holding side of it. I just wanted to go, look, I feel like we have the marketing down, we got the leads with the sales. we've watched a lot of stuff, we've read some books. Some stuff is contradicting each other. I just want something that works, and I want something to hold my hand the entire way. So I really like the idea of the weekly calls, and then you listening to the sales calls we're having, so we can tweak on the spot and improve, uh, really quick as we go along, as opposed to you just kind of giving some advice or giving a course and then okay, off you go, boys. Or these kind of, again, going back to that sales guy, he was doing these group calls with like a bunch of people on the call. I'm like, they're not going to care. They're not going to remember me week in, week out. They're not going to listen to my calls. Um, so just getting someone for a long period of time who can really listen to or really understand all of our kind of problems, our clients, the objections we're facing, and then tackle each problem as they come. So I felt like we were able to incrementally overcome all the problems we needed to. I think it needed to be a long period of time also. If this was just like a 1 weekend coaching thing, I think we would have got pumped up for a weekend, forgot everything, and then probably hired someone else a week later or a month later or something like that. So we had so much to unlearn and then learn again with you over that, like over a long period of time. So that's what I was really excited about. I felt like really confident that over the 6 months, given your experience, I really feel like you're the guy that can get us there.
Nice. And maybe just to add to that sales training part. So a lot of the organizations I speak to now, they've gone through this process year by year of like working with different sales trainers, and the sales team gets hyped for about a week and a half, and then the results just go down again. And that's why we created RevPact in that way, where sales training is like one component, it is a key pillar, but there's three others. And just doing something like that in isolation isn't going to guarantee the long-term success. I guess for you, having gone through the process, was there a specific moment when you realized like this was making a difference for your business?
Well, the obvious one was when money started flowing in.
That
Uh,
helps.
yeah, I think maybe after like a month or two, I kind of pulled back and just let it all for Tomas. He was like doing all the sales, and I could see the penny drop at him after some of the calls, where he was coming off calls me like, "Oh my God, I've learned that thing and I've implemented it. I can't wait to show Alan about this." Like he was right. So it was almost like every week was like a new epiphany that we'd learn something. You didn't like flood the gate with us either. Like you didn't give us too much. It was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
here's the thing you need to learn this week. Go implement it. Go implement it again. Ingrain it. Okay, now here's the next thing you need to do." So all those reasons why those clients were like falling through our fingers, we were just like plugging those holes. I guess the other main thing was we just didn't really have a sales structure that we believed in. So that was like the
Mm.
foundation. Cool. Now we have a foundation that we believe in. It's rock solid, and anything on top of that is like the bells and whistles, which is nice to have. We didn't even have the foundation. So I think it was also very good that you tailored the plan to us. Like
Yeah.
there was a system laid out, but then once we got into it, you kind of realize, oh, hang on, we actually need to deviate here a little bit. This is actually the big thing you need to focus on, where whatever that was at the time. So I really like that you custom tailored the plan to suit exactly what we needed at the time. And I think that paid dividends in the end.
Yeah. And from my side, that was exciting to kind of witness, particularly when I was on those calls with Tomas, and you can kind of see his eyes light up of like he you could see it was like the penny dropped in his mind of like, oh my God, if I kind of change this, it's going to have a massive impact on how the other person perceives the information um, that I'm giving them. Just going back to the part where you talked about structure, right? This is something I see most agencies don't have, and it sounds like the unsexy stuff, but it's actually the most important over time to ensure long-term success in sales. So I like the fact that you brought that up. As it pertains to the sales system and your sales system now, what would you say were the key changes that you saw in your sales system, um, or results that were coming up for you, maybe that you didn't expect?
What's the question again? Sorry.
Yeah, so I think when we first started working together, I think your initial maybe perception at the time was I'll help you close more deals, which is true. It's part of that, but usually a low conversion rate is symptomatic of other things that are going on in the sales structure. So now that you have this sales system in place, what would you say were like the key changes you saw in your own sales system? Maybe like what you were doing before versus what you were doing now.
I think we were probably, yeah, I just, the term like winging it just comes to mind. It was different every time, so it was scattered, which mean we were a bit unsure of ourselves, which mean the calls didn't go well. But when we realized, okay, there's a process to this, we actually could relax throughout it. Be like, okay, no, there's time on call two or call three to do that. So we actually got a lot more confident with call one, which is, we were kind of asking them more questions. We were being less needy, less pushy. We kind of knew if we got to know them a bit more, figured out their problems without rushing in and try to sell them something. We actually got more from it, and then we're more likely to show up in call number two, number three, etc. So again, yeah, the confidence of the system. Once we started believing in like the system, the framework of the calls, expecting objections, certain criteria to hit by certain stages. Once we kind of knew all of that, then you're just working on like different smaller things like tonality and different objections, whatever. But just honestly, just knowing that that process worked was actually like a big confidence lift. And then like the more confident you are, the more relaxed we were. And then we were like less needy. And then the sales just came after that.
And so maybe just continuing on that train of thoughts, you said the sales started coming then after that. So for you, like what or for online optimizers, what measurable results did you achieve as a result of working with RevPact?
Yeah. So I think we had a dip in August, right before we started working with you, all-time low this year, I think 2.5K revenue. And I said I just checked revenue right before the call there, and it was 13.5K revenue December. And like I'm actually getting fucking I'm actually getting like goosebumps thinking about it. Because like breaking 10K had been the goal the last 2 years. And then I was just so surprised how quickly that came, maybe within 3 or 4 months or something like that. So it just came so quickly, I didn't even realize it. I had to like pause and go, whoa, we just broke 10K there. Pat on the back, ring Alan, thank you, pal. So it was like a 4 or 5x of the business or something.
Yeah, which was phenomenal to see. Like from my side, like there's nothing I get greater satisfaction in seeing someone who like takes advice, who takes on board the advice they're given and then actually executes with it. So you mentioned like the results seem to come kind of fast, and then all of a sudden you're like, looking at your bank account and revenue, you're like, oh my God, we've like 5x the business. How soon after working with RevPack did you get an ROI?
Um, do you mean in like paying for the entire 6 months or just like get some money back?
Yeah, so a specific example comes to mind when you messaged me on WhatsApp. Or no, I think you sent me a voice note. This was probably a few months ago. And you were talking about like some of the big deals that had just closed. Uh,
Yeah, that could have been maybe 2 months ago when there was like, yeah, there was one month where it just all came at once, actually, I think, where like you told us to go for some referrals. We got like a referral out of nowhere. We kind of upsold one of our own clients, and then a few other like big deals came through. And then I think that's when I just realized we'd broken 10K. And maybe I just sent you the big voicemail then being like, hey, dude, just realizing what's after going on here. Because we were so much in it, they were just kind of happening. It just got normal to actually close a deal, was the weird thing. Before it was like a massive celebration, cracking cans of Guinness for every sale, but then it actually just became normal. We're like, oh, yeah, another close, cool. Next, add it to the pile.
so you're leveling up, which is I think based off our all of our discussions, like that's you had this vision of where you wanted the business to go, and now you've achieved it. So it's kind of like you've gone from maybe someone who was winning a bit of business here and there to like now you're an agency owner who's like consistently winning business. How would you say like going through this process, this has impacted you personally from Donal before to Donal now?
Yeah, so there's just way more belief in our business skills, capabilities. I think probably beforehand we still felt like a fraud, like imposter syndrome. And every email from a lead was just such a big deal, heart rate, anxiety. But now I kind of trust my ability to get more clients. So if someone's being weird or not a perfect client, it's no big deal. If he's trying to negotiate too hard, I don't need the deal. And like, again, it's all back to this confidence. They feel it too. And so I think we're just way more likely to continue and grow and just feel, like we belong in this space, like we are actually agency owners, we belong here. Whereas probably 6 months ago, it all still felt like a bit of a con, like we didn't trust it. We weren't making enough money to believe that we actually belonged here. But I think once we hit the threshold and started getting the more clients we got on, the more results we could get them, the more belief started stacking. Oh yeah, we are actually providing a really good service here. Um, we should be doing sales because we have a good service. It's not this weird, icky thing that we should be ashamed of trying to sell our service. Um, yeah, people want our service. Let's give it to them.
Exactly. Uh, what would you say to other CEOs or agency owners who are struggling with sales or who want to scale, but they don't know how?
I would say there's probably a lot more going wrong in sales than you think. You probably have a lot of connotations and beliefs built around about built around it that need to be investigated. Like I know with us, we just had like the eggshell broken a lot of like this belief system broken. And so there's a lot more of that than I actually thought, like the mental side of sales. Um, yeah, so I would, jump on a call with Alan, see what beliefs you have that need to be broken, see what skills you need to add to the repertoire. Is it a lead thing? Is it a sales thing? If you get enough leads but you're not closing, then you kind of need to investigate where you are with that, your belief system around it, and do you have the skills to do it? And is it worth putting X amount of money in so that in a few months' time you're making Y and that pays for it? It just seems like a simple maths game at that stage.
When you lay it out like that, 100%, the challenge is even when you lay it out like that, as you said, you actually still have to get to the person's beliefs and mindset because there's just, I see it time and time again with sales, there's just so much bullshit connotations with it. And I think a lot of this comes from one, people's own insecurities, and then two, the type of information that they're consuming online. Um, Now, to quickly wrap this up, two more quick shot questions for you. Why would you recommend RevPact to someone considering working with us? Because if we go back 6 months ago, you had three different options. You were considering an ad option, uh, another well-known sales trainer, and us. So what would you say to someone who's kind of maybe in a similar situation to what you were 6 months ago?
Well, yeah, I think I knew that you had the skills just based on your resume. Um, but what really got it for me was like, okay, you have the skills and you care and you really want us to succeed. And I just felt like no matter what, you were going to get us there. And it's over a long enough period that you were going to throw the kitchen sink at it, jump on as many calls as needed, listen to as many sales calls as we had. Like whatever the issue was, you were going to figure it out and work on it and fix it. So it was just a matter of time before the sales started coming.
Yeah, I love that. And that's why now with our business we actually have that guarantee. I don't know if you've seen that recently, but we say uh, we will double your sales. And if we don't, we'll continue working with you for free until we do. Like that's how confident we are. Once we're able to like look under the hood and see what's actually going on in the sales org, we're very confident that we can get to the root of those problems. Um, Last one. So if you could summarize the impact RevPact has had on your business in one sentence, what would it be?
Well, I'm out in Asia living my dream life now, something I've thought about with the last 2 years, living in my parents' house in Ireland. And that was basically only made possible by RevPact.
I love that. Because when we actually first met, without getting all emotional and soppy, I was actually in a similar place. I think when we met at that conference in Sofia, I'd like always dreamed of like, I want to get the hell out of Ireland. I want to see the world. I had Thailand in my head, and it just felt like this just thing that it just didn't seem like it was ever possible. So I've had to come through that process as well. I know to see like, you know, how far you're after going and the fact now we can meet in different countries. We're talking about going to Vietnam together in 2 months' time. It's like, what more do you want?
Yeah, just learn the skills, meet the right people. You can get there.
What's the next step for online optimizers now?
So I was talking to a partner last week. We are kind of summing up how this year went. We're quite happy with the trajectory, and we want to aim big. We're like double down again for in the next year. Um, so probably we're looking at maybe if I was to set a higher up goal, it would be like 30K revenue by the end of next year. That's like thinking big. And I actually feel like we can get that. That's it. It's actually not actually that ridiculous when you put the numbers up there. It's like a sale a month or something like that, which isn't crazy, which we've kind of done those numbers for different periods of the year. Maybe there was like a 3-month period where that was like the average of like a sale, sale, sale. Um, so it's just a matter of fixing the things that need to be fixing in terms of like, okay, increase the number of leads, hiring some people for better management. We feel like we have the sales skills now. So it's like, yeah, why not? Why not think big, double, triple the ROI now?
You're going to do it. I feel if you guys are committed and you keep thinking big, this is a seven-figure agency. So then that comes back down to you. It's like, one, are you committed to doing it? And then two, as you navigate through those processes of like, okay, we've hit quarter mil, we've hit half a mil. At each stage, you're going to have to start up leveling your mindset because it starts to become a different game. So I'm super excited to see your guys' journey, continue to follow it. And yeah, I'll be rooting you guys on from the sideline. So thanks for coming on, Donal. It's been a pleasure working together the last few months, and I only see things going up and up and up.
Appreciate it, dude. You absolutely changed the business. You changed the game. Forever grateful. Forever grateful.